We've all been there, right? That feeling. You're freezing, but also burning up, and just completely wiped out. But what exactly is a fever? Is it the bad guy we need to fight? Or is it actually our body's best defense? Well, let's go on a little journey together and find out what's really going on inside your body when your temperature starts to climb. So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with your body's built-in thermostat. Then we'll talk about what happens when that fever alarm goes off. We'll get into how to actually read the signs and walk through the 3 stages of a fever. And of course, we'll cover the best ways to care for a fever, and this is crucial, when it's time to call for help. All right, first up, let's talk about your body's incredible internal heating and cooling system. It's this constant, kind of delicate dance that's always happening behind the scenes to keep everything in balance. Now, the official name for this process is thermoregulation, and the master controller, it's a tiny, amazing part of your brain called the hypothalamus. You can just think of it as your body's own personal thermostat, always tweaking things to keep the temperature just right. And it really is a balancing act, just like you see here. On one side, your body is producing heat through everyday things like metabolism, or when you exercise, or even when you shiver. And on the other side, it's losing heat, through radiation or by sweating. When both sides are equal, you're golden. Your temperature stays nice and stable. So what's that magic number our internal thermostat is always aiming for? Well, on average, it's this number we all know and love, 37 degrees Celsius or 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the set point for a healthy body. But what happens when an intruder, say a virus or some bacteria, crashes the party? Well, that's when things get interesting. The thermostat gets hijacked and the body sounds the alarm. And that alarm, that's what we call a fever, or pyrexia if you want to get technical. Basically, it's any body temperature above 37.5 Celsius or 99.5 Fahrenheit. And it's so important to remember. The fever isn't the illness itself. It's a sign that your immune system is awake, on the job, and fighting back hard. Of course, not all fevers are created equal. We've got low-grade, moderate, and high-grade fevers. But the one you really need to look out for is hyperpyrexia. See that number? Anything above 41 degrees Celsius, that's a medical danger zone. That needs immediate attention. But here's something you might not know. It's not just about how high the temperature gets. The pattern of the fever can tell a fascinating story. So why does this pattern matter so much? Well, because these patterns are like fingerprints for different diseases. A continuous high fever could point towards something like typhoid. A remittent one, where it's always high but goes up and down a bit, could be a clue for an infection like endocarditis. And that classic intermittent fever, where it spikes and then drops back to normal, is a huge sign for malaria. Doctors actually use these unique signatures to help figure out what's going on. It's pretty amazing. Okay, so if we're going to spot these patterns, we need to know how to measure temperature correctly in the first place. So let's get practical and talk about the tools of the trade. You've got options. You've probably seen those infrared ones used for quick screenings. But really, the gold standard for your home and in hospitals is a good old digital thermometer. It's just fast, it's safe, and it's reliable. And this is super, super important. Where you take the temperature makes a huge difference. A rectal temperature is the most accurate reading of your core temperature. On the flip side, an armpit reading is usually the least accurate. It can often be about half a degree Celsius lower than what's really going on. So here's a fantastic little memory trick to keep it all straight. Just think, R is greater than O, which is greater than A. Rectal is more accurate than oral, which is more accurate than axillary. Simple, right? But it's a really helpful thing to remember. Okay, now that we know how to measure it, let's get into what a fever actually feels like. It's a whole story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. We're talking about the rise, the peak, and the fall. So it all starts with the onset, that chill stage. Ever wonder why you shiver when you have a fever? It's because your brain has set a new, higher temperature goal, and shivering is your body's way of generating heat to get there. Then comes the peak, where you feel hot, flushed, and dry. Finally, once your immune system starts winning, your brain resets the thermostat back to normal, and that's when the sweating starts. That's your body's cooling system working overtime to bring your temperature back down. All right, so you're right in the middle of it. What should you actually do? Let's talk about the best ways to provide some comfort and support. The main goals here are pretty simple. Provide comfort and prevent things from getting worse. So you want to monitor the temperature regularly, wear light clothes to let the heat escape, and I can't stress this enough, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate.
Rest is absolutely key, and of course, medications like paracetamol can help you feel a whole lot better. But this brings us to a huge misconception. When someone is absolutely burning up, it seems logical, right? You should try to cool them down as fast as possible, maybe with an ice bath.
No, absolutely not. Please, avoid ice baths or very cold water. And here's why. It's totally counterintuitive. That extreme cold makes you shiver violently. And what did we just learn about shivering? It's your body's way of producing more heat. You end up working against yourself. So, if you're going to use water to cool down, make sure it's lukewarm, never ice cold. Okay, this brings us to our last section, and honestly, it's the most critical one. Most fevers are no big deal, but it is absolutely vital that you know when a fever is a sign of a real medical emergency. Please pay close attention here. These are the red flags. If you see any of these signs, a temperature over 40 Celsius, any kind of seizure, confusion, a stiff neck, non-stop vomiting, do not wait. These are all signs that you need to get medical help right away. And that brings our journey to a close. We've seen that a fever is way more than just a number on a thermometer. It's a powerful, complex response. Which leaves us with this final thought. Is a fever just a symptom that we should always rush to cure? Or is it a fundamental defense that we should actually learn to support? Maybe the real answer is somewhere in the middle.